Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Auchnachoy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
Welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast. Please remember folks to give the Inside Game a like, follow or a subscribe on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and Spotify. It really does help to keep the podcast coming. So episode number 29, and today I'm delighted to welcome back onto the show Mark Beattie and Brenton Devenney, two former guests. Mark, thanks for coming back on.
No problem, Gary. Brilliant.
And Brenton, good to talk again.
Always a pleasure.
So, gents, like a few weeks ago, if someone had told me about running this podcast with both of you on it, I would imagine it was to preview an All-Ireland final or maybe an All-Ireland semi-final between Armagh and Donegal. But look, instead, here we are now and we're in post-mortem mode after these two highly fancied teams have made early access out of the championship. So, look, Mark, I'll start with you first here. If you just give me a simple match analysis maybe of the Louth game and then the Kerry game.
Yeah, well, the Louth game, I was at the Louth game and we all went and, the local derby side of it and, the diesel laundering game and all the rest that it was supposed to be, which was great and went, but still expected a tough game. Expected, it was going to be tight, but we were always going to come away with a victory. A lot of people talked about complacency. A lot of people talked about, the goalkeeper, just general eyes off the ball. I don't think they were. I think people underestimate how good this Louth team is. Very, very big, physical, strong team. And in around the middle of the field, with us losing Creeley and, Andy and guys like that, it changed the whole dynamics of the game. And Louth were very physical, very big in that area. They stayed. And this is one of the things that I've been saying about Armagh. Teams are always in with a shout. Coming down the stretch, we just never really, bar the down game, we never really kill anyone off. You look at the Monaghan game, you look at the Tyrone game, and the same thing came about against Louth. And, we still got ourselves in the lead. We were still coming down to the last couple of seconds of the game. We were still in front, and we had the opportunity, and a lot of people have said about Aidan coming on and, giving that ball away and or going for the shot and maybe should have recycled the ball and kept the ball. And, it wasn't to be. And then, what happened. Ethan had the howler. And next thing we're in 6 days later going to Killarney, after a game that we should have won and we didn't. And thinking about quarterfinals and how far we were going to go, to having to go to Killarney, against a team that very rarely loses in Killarney, players coming back. Armagh, one of the big guns, let's get them out. Everything fell into Kerry's hands for that game. And I just feel that to analyse the Kerry game, it's quite difficult because it wasn't the Armagh team that we have seen all year. It isn't the Armagh team we've seen over the last number of years. And I think that 6-day turnaround is massive when you come off the back of a defeat that should never have been. It's okay sometimes. Some teams can get themselves galvanised and get themselves back up again, after 6-7 days, whenever, maybe unexpectedly, they give a team a real match and then all of a sudden that's galvanised them to get there for the following week. But this was different. This was completely different. It was a game Armagh should have won. They had the game won and, it was snatched out of their arms. And then they go to Killarney against a team, getting players back, and it was just a step too far, I feel, for Armagh against Kerry. And once the goal went in just before half time, there was no way back. And I think now we all talk about how tight and how open the championship is. If Kerry keep performing and keep getting men back, I don't think it'll be open regarding who's going to play them in the final.
Yeah. Brenton, Donegal and Cork, and then Donegal and Dublin. If you maybe just do what Mark has done there, just sort of touch on those 2 games and, what it was going on for Donegal. You were at those games, you saw those games. What was your takeaway?
It's funny talking to Mark there. I find that you tend to be more critical of your own team, because when you're doing a look back, I guess, particularly obviously after defeats, that you know the team so well. Sometimes it sounds like you're coming off a wee bit critical. I would be more on the positive side of a lot I've seen of Armagh, and say that even the start of the Kerry game and how they come down to it. I just think that mindset you touched on there, Mark, that goal, and I thought the goal was telling before I get to Donegal. I mean, Foley kicks that ball against a 4-3 situation. I think there are big learnings in there for Donegal and Armagh. We don't kick the ball. The two of us run, and eventually that can run out of steam. I think Donegal and Armagh's seasons were very different, but I just thought, look at Foley there. Would Armagh or Donegal player kick the ball into a 4-3 situation if we played for the next 100 years with the current mindset? Not a chance. And Foley took the chance to kick that ball, and they McKay went up, broke down. Fortune favoured it, and Gainey puts the ball in the back of the net. And as you said, Derek, that was a killer goal, but it came off the back of someone trying something that both our teams just don't try. And I think it takes us so far. I think it actually causes, to me as a footballer, if you're playing the same way all the time and you're running the ball all the time, it takes away a wee bit of who you are as a footballer in terms of your skills and how you're going to play, and then how the team. So the full team has to attack in terms of, say, the 11, whoever sits in, and then the full team has to defend, bar the 3. So everybody has to join the attack to cause overloads and cause instead of having some attacks where you can put the ball into a corner or into a player who finishes it, then push up and squeeze in the kick out, and then you're full of energy. I think Armagh and Donegal just expend so much energy running the ball, and I know it's coming off the back and we're coming under new rules. I just think there's much more in both teams in terms of opening up and playing and using target men, because I think both sides have a serious bit of talent to play the game many different ways. I think they're going to have to evolve, both teams. And you asked about Donegal. Donegal obviously just got their season completely mixed up. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I was thinking, if you take the All-Ireland final in it, that's 4 championship games out of 5 Donegal have lost. I mean, if you take Jim's 6 years previous to that in Ulster, 1 game lost, 1 game in 6 years, So Donegal are a championship force. They're a team that don't go down without a fight. They're a team that are primed to go deep in the championship. And what we've seen in every second half in all those defeats was Donegal completely lacking in energy and fight and drive, which can only point to one thing. We come back so early, having been bruised from the All-Ireland final defeat, and just went at it too hard. We've seen other teams do it. That's not an excuse either, because it shouldn't happen. Donegal had won 2 Ulsters. They had 1 game in town. That was to get back to All-Ireland final and make up for what happened the year before. So the fact that we lost 3 out of 4 championship games there's only one reason it points to, because the way we lost them in the second halves shows that our energy had gone, and there's quite a deeper side to that. But I think even tactically in that it's a bit draining to keep on playing the same way all the time. And I think there's probably, Jim says we have to go away and look at absolutely everything. I would agree with that. And it's not that Kerry kick the ball that often. They don't. They run it nearly the vast majority of the time, but they do it now and then. I think even that there would add quite a bit to Donegal and Armagh.
I think there, Brandon, just to come in there, guys. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think what you're saying is also, there's a wee bit of off the cuff with Kerry. Once they come out of defence, the head up, they will always have the head up for that kick pass. They'll always be looking for Clifford, Gainey, whoever it is. Like, everyone goes on about Clifford and he is massive. But Dylan Gainey, Paul Gainey, these guys are top-notch players. And as soon as the Foleys or whoever it is coming out of the fence, they'll get the head up and they're prepared to kick that ball. If it doesn't happen, if it's not on, then they're prepared to run it and work the ball and do the transition and the slow play and everything that needed to be done. But once it's on, they give it. No Armagh player or no Kerry player will do that. Or sorry, no Donegal player. And I think more so Donegal than Armagh will kick that ball. That ball has to be run. It has to be run to the arc, and they have to run on the loops and the cuts, and that's the only way they're scoring. It's and cutting out any chance of mistakes. But as we've seen, it hasn't got them over the line. And one just other point in Donegal, I feel that, and I don't know why you'll agree with Brenton, I feel that they after last year's final and a lot of the criticism that Jim McGuinness got, I feel that everything in his head was about beating Kerry. It was beating Kerry in the league. It was beating Kerry in the league again. And then they got the chance in Killarney, and everything was about beating them. And then whenever they went to the other games, they just were complacent and just, I wouldn't say not up for it, but it was just different. They were just different. And I just feel that it was very much, everything was about beating Kerry and for McGuinness to prove that he could beat Kerry. You know, and even back in the All-Ireland final, when in his first term when Kerry beat them, a lot of people give him criticism for that as well. And I just feel that made a play on him a wee bit more than what happened to the team.
Well, look, guys, the reason this is typically an Armagh show. The reason I've brought on an Armagh and Donegal is because I do see your two teams as very similar, and you've touched on it already with their playing styles and things like that. Another similarity there would be we've got two coaches who, regardless of how the seasons have went, I think most people would agree they're certainly top of the tree. The two coaches that we have, and I want to sort of ask what's next for them. I mean, I would imagine they're both going to be there next year. So maybe if you want to talk about that a little bit, if you think that's the case or not. But then when it comes to the playing style, if they're both going to be there, let's assume that. You can assume otherwise if you want, but if they are going to be there, the playing style, I think what you're talking about here is probably something that needs to change a little bit. Brandon, you go first there.
McGinney's going to be there. He's in the summer frame. For fuck's sake, he's going nowhere. If there was ever a man with heart and soul in any county, I mean, listen, McGinney's top man, and his lads and them there, they're first class, and even the way he went outside the county, obviously to pull in a bit from Donaghy and then from Conleith and that shows a lot of humility from his perspective, because that's not happening in Donegal. You know what I mean? I don't think that will happen either. And I think that type of if you look at all the teams, I mean, Jason Sherrock's on me, Ross Common, obviously Cian Neal, Kildare man's back in with Kerry. There's Paddy Talley is Mayo, like Andy Moore was with Monaghan. You know what I mean? So you have people that are coming in and out everywhere, and that's very smart. And listen, I don't want to in any way criticize Armagh manager, because I know that they'll get it right in the next year, because the game is evolving, and obviously Armagh won All Ireland the first year, the change in, so it's taken a lot. And McGinney's referenced quite a few times about the control gone, the piggery. McGuinness there the last day, and it's 10 minutes after things, talked about like it's a game of kickouts, and there's no control whatsoever. They were very control-based, systematic managers that wanted to play it a certain way, and were damn good at that. And the way the old rules was, they were getting the best of it. And obviously McGuinness touching All Ireland, Armagh won All Ireland. Now everything's gone up in the air, and I think it's taken a lot for that to change, and they're probably changing bit by bit. And I'm not saying just kicking the ball it's going to sort everything out. Like, I think Armagh did a hell of a lot right this year. Obviously, Ulster champions, and as you mentioned quite right, America. I mean, with your 3/4, if you include Rian in that there, along with Creeley, O'Neill, and obviously Grimley retiring. I mean, I was thinking if I was Donegal and you took our 4 kind of potential midfielders, I mean, Murnham really not really a midfielder. He can do a job there, Duffy stepping in, but really they're your kind of 4 best from, say, last year before. So if you did that to Donegal, there'd be serious problem. You would have nobody to kind of step in. So Armagh patched a lot of gaps and did really well. They seemed to cope a lot with it, but I think going down to Killarney was a different thing altogether in terms of not having maybe your full squad against them, because they pretty much had theirs then, and that's why that's a such difficult thing. So I think for Jim, next year, you look at it, it's obviously completely going to be a different season. I can see Donegal hopefully going on a wee bit rusty at the start of the league and building it up into the championship. And along with Jim took the job on a 3/4 year. So the 4th year of this year was optional. So it'll be interesting to see, does he take up that year? And I suppose Michael Murphy coming back and all that there, everything was kind of setting, the stars around Murphy and his swan song and all that there. So I'm just wondering, people think automatically Michael retire. I'm thinking if Jim did one more year and Michael maybe was an impact player, would that be enough for him? Would he be happy enough? Is that often a lot of him? If he was going to come back, I'm sure Jim obviously would want him there. You've Ryan McHugh's in there as well. 1 or 2 others might be at a certain age. But I think basically after Donegal having what you call a short season for them, I think that coming back with something very fresh next year, because certainly that team that we seen weren't anywhere near it, so they could come on with maybe a new bit of bite next year and attack the game a lot differently. And I think they'll get massive respect for that. I think when fans go to games and they watch teams, if you always play the safe option and try and win games by a score here and there and try and control the game, you're leaving yourself open, as Mark was saying, to somebody down the stretch pulling out a bit of brilliance. As we've seen with the likes of Monaghan in the Ulster final, it nearly took Armagh, even though Armagh were in control of the game. Now, I know it's harder to control the game now, and nobody can definitely do that. But I think there is certain ways that you maybe let players off the leash a wee bit. I think that would be exciting, because I still think that Donegal and Armagh have the two best squads in Ulster and could have a tilt at All Ireland. But I think for both teams going into next year, they're going to have to look at a few other elements of their game.
Same question for you then, Mark. The two managers, you'd expect them to stay on, and
I think I completely agree about Geezer. Like there's no question, and when you look back to 2023, when the vote around the clubs about keeping them and not keeping them, how even as supporters, how everything has been transformed. Where at this moment in time, if Kieran McGeeney announced tomorrow that he was stepping down, the whole county would be up in arms. Everybody would be against it, because he's just turned it all around, and now we want him to be there, and everyone's 100% behind him. And I think the players, they just love him. So, and he loves it. And as Brenton says, he just eats, lives and sleeps Armagh, and he's not for going anywhere. Kieran McKeever's the same. And I'm sure they'll be hoping to keep Colin Gilligan as well. And Dennis Hollywood and these guys in the background as well. They have a real brilliant management team around them. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But where I do totally agree with Brenton is, something needs to change regarding their systems. Yes, McGeeney, they'll train the hell out of them. They will be super fit. They'll be super strong. They'll be, any sort of control that you can have in the present game, they will create it for their two teams. They will get both teams in the systems, get the 11 behind the ball, very hard to score against. Once they attack, they'll get the 11 up the field, beyond the arc, and they have the power players. Donegal have Langan, the Michael Murphy, the Ram McHugh coming through, Ocean Gallen, these guys, and they will get scores. They'll get 2 pointers, they'll break in, and Donegal, maybe more so than Armagh, will look like more of a goal threat at times. And Armagh, very similar, they'll attack at pace. McQuillan, Conady, McMullen, there's so much pace, and they'll get up the field, they'll create the 11, but they'll also get back at pace. And that's why they're always so competitive. While Kerry and these teams, there's just a wee difference to them. There's a slight difference to Kerry where, as we've already spoke about, they'll get the head up, they'll try and go for a long pass, they'll still play the running game, they'll still get up the 11s as well. And, but somewhere along the line, you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And that's where Donegal and Armagh are at, and they will, all as a management teams, they'll be looking into that and saying, how are we going to change it? Or they could be ignorant about it and say, we ain't changing anything, we're going down the same road, we have put ourselves in real good positions. It was a slip up against Louth, they slipped up against Louth. Donegal took Dublin extra time. Everyone's saying Dublin's not this, not that. But the bottom line is Dublin's still got a hell of a lot of good players there. So it's fine margins. And we all know when it comes to Armagh point of view, and off 3 seconds, we were looking at a quarter-final this weekend. We wouldn't have been talking about any of this, and it's as simple as that. Donegal, once they got the extra time, before extra time, I thought they would have got over the line and just got through it. But it was still a tight game. And, they didn't get over the line. So there's a bit of that where there could be a wee bit of ignorance about it and saying people are going to criticize us, they're going to say this and say that, but we're going to put it our way, and this is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, I would imagine, Gary, Mark, I imagine they'll be very similar, right? There's not going to be any massive changes. We know that. Continuity is the big thing here. You look at squads going in, players are so, in terms of the group, right? The group as such got one focus and one drive. So to have one guy in there with the experience of Kieran or with Jim, in terms of the aura he brings, absolutely elevates everybody around him. When you come to training, everything's going to be done, box, we're going somewhere, we're going to have a tilt first at Ulster and then at All Ireland. We're going to be competitive, and that players need that in the background. Like when Jim stepped away the last time, you could feel the void, and different managers come in. There was never anything like what Jim had brought. And after Kieran's tough opening years, at Armagh, the continuity he brings, he's already landed the All Ireland, he's landed in Ulster now. So everybody knows that we're going to be in the running for this, and that's massive for any players coming in. They're coming in a confident side with a manager that has a clear vision. But what we're chatting about there, me and Marcus, just subtle changes have to be small. I mean, look at even Ross Common when they went, or Monaghan and did after Mayo, Bobby McCall inside, the direct ball, the panic it caused. It's just probably to have that wee bit of an extra element in there. They're not going to change big because, as Mark's saying, it's taking them really, really close, and they're near it anyway. It's probably just a small wee subtle differences to have a wee bit of element kick pass to your game where you can even get out with a kick pass and whop it in and create a wee bit of scoring chance. It doesn't result in the whole team attacking and defending together, which will keep players a wee bit fresher. I suppose they're the small wee things in there that might change.
Well, it's something to take you both up on. You both talked about control or lack thereof control. I'm not sure there's a better example than the first half of Armagh and Kerry the other day, where at the time in Killarney I was watching, I thought, look, we're actually putting Armagh's in good control of this game here. I watched it again on TV last night and it felt the exact same thing, and it didn't seem to matter. The control just isn't really there anymore, because Kerry were still able to go up and kick a couple of 2-pointers. They were still able to get that goal late on. They were able to get another goal from David Clifford. The control, even whatever control Armagh did have, it doesn't seem to matter anymore. So you're right. You're absolutely right what you're saying. The elements of control, you can only do so much, but they're pretty much irrelevant now.
Yeah, you can talk about possession and Armagh having a lot of the ball and working the arc and maybe kicking a point and breaking into that, that's percentage score that we're all talking about now, where we can get into that wee zone. We're kicking our 1 points in an easy position with Armagh doing an awful lot of. But once you lose that possession in that area and someone like Kerry breaks a pace, and then they put the high press, they put the press on you, and the next thing it's another 2-pointer, and all of a sudden all that possession, all that play that you had, it means nothing, because they've just went up the field and scored a goal and maybe 2-pointers, which is 7 points, and you've maybe been leading by 2 or 3, and then you're wondering, God, we were in control of that game. But it doesn't matter anymore, and I think that's the point that myself and Brent are making, that you have to change it up. Once you get into that control and you get in that area, get your scores, get your 2-pointers, try and create that goal, try and create that wee bit of chaos, mayhem in around the scoring zone for a goal. And then once that team, they come out and try and get the quick kick, which Kerry are absolutely brilliant at. They're brilliant at that quick kick, getting out, bang, ball away, straight up the field. But then get the press onto them straight away and get another score. Then you'll realise we are in control of this game, because you're that 6-7 points ahead. And what I'm finding is, and being involved, you have a lot of the ball, you have whatever, but then all of a sudden, how are we behind here? We were in complete control of this, but you're not, because of the 2-pointers and new rules, and just somebody prepared to do something a wee bit different, and that changes everything.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
Well, Brenton, we spoke during the week when we were trying to set this up, and something you spoke to me about was the competitiveness of Gaelic football championship now in general, and hard to get a read on it. Teams are disappearing, or teams are appearing out of nowhere, and from a neutral point of view now that we are all going to be now looking forward here, it's something. It is quite something now.
Yeah, I think the read, probably we used to get a wee bit from the league because it was so competitive. Now this year in particular, the league has been a disaster as a template for something good in the championship. Dublin obviously relegated, Monaghan relegated. They're there. Derry, Tyrone, really poor league. There they are, still in there, and so it's been a strange one. That I think the condensed season, along with the new rules, we're still getting used to. I think it just seems so crazy. The lead-in at times in the league and championship, depending on when you're on. So there's a lot of things to get used to there. But certainly, the new management's coming in. I think the likes of Andy Moran coming in at Mayo there. Different teams are going to take different times to bed. And this was saying about the likes of Jim coming in second term. Some of the boys were there from the first term. That kind of continuity kind of sets Donegal and sets teams like Armagh apart. Jack comes back into Kerry. He was in before. Everybody knows what they're going to get when they come in. So I think some of the other teams now have taken a wee bit of time with the new managements to bed in. Our friends in Tyrone, that we were expecting something straight away from Malgy O'Rourke. That's probably unfair, and I think Annie Moran's been judged straight away on what he's been doing. Gabriel Bannigan was being judged, even though Monaghan were missing a load of players at the start of the season. And look at how they've turned around. I mean, their last couple of performances there, even though they should have beat the Mayo, but the way they handle Roscommon and some of the football that they've now played, there's like they've timed their season right. I suppose when you think about where Donegal are at, Donegal beating Kerry by 13 points in the league and beating teams if they wanted to in the league shows that they were going too hard ahead. So it's as if we're always learning. That's why I'm a bit surprised that happened, Donegal, because Mickey Harts-Derry did it just a few seasons ago. Remember even Roscommon a few years ago, they were in a league final and we thought they were going to make a big splash. And so you got to really time your season well. It looks like Donegal were back very early in terms of, and the intensity again, you were on about the fitness and that. If you're in a Jim McGuinness session, it isn't like it's ever just going to be a bit of a kickabout. It looks like it's full on. So if them full on sessions are happening for, say, the guts of 6 months before you hit that sheer championship time, you can understand how, if they haven't been tapered properly, that you can get a bit of an energy drop. I think that's what happened with Donegal, and that's why you have Jim saying we have to go away and look at absolutely everything. And on top of that, we're talking about coaches. Luke Barrett left Donegal and went to Derry. So, he wasn't actually replaced as well. So there's probably around maybe, Jim certainly, I think, takes a while out on board himself in the sessions and that too. So, and that can be a bit difficult because I think his personality is that way. And he's brilliant at that. He's obviously unbelievable focus in teams. You look at his teams that he took, where they were and where they go to instantly. So he has some serious magic in there. But probably now in the modern game, there's so much going on. I think you need real eyes and ears. And you mentioned like Kerry there, when Connor came in with Aidan McGarrigan, they had another 2 Kerry lads with him. And then obviously Cian O'Neill joins him, one of the top coaches in the country. And then Donaghy joins him. And like everybody's still there. So you can imagine now the amount of input and eyes and really respected people who are coming down, influencing that team. And I think that's another side to the top teams as well. Having plenty of eyes in there. I was even thinking Mickey Graham to Galway as well, county manager. You have so many people in there. I think they can add some kind of value. And as Mark was saying, them small percentage, even if that is something about kickouts, you know what I mean? That could be enough for you to win 2 or 3 extra balls in a tight championship game that won you the match. So I think that's why the Jim comment. I think it's the biggest thing that he said. We have to go away and look at absolutely everything.
Yeah. Mark, do you want to weigh in on that sort of the general state of inter-county football?
Come back to that last point there. He's actually making because even when you look at Armagh, you look at McKinney, like, and I think it wasn't the Monaghan game, maybe the Tyrone game. There he is behind the goals. He's just constantly on the ball, whether it be Blaine or Ethan, and that's where he is. You've got Gilligan. He's either on the 40. For the defence or for the attacking team, and McKeever's just beside McGinney at all times. And it was actually very close to Dennis Hollywood in the stand, who was watching him and Sheridan, and they were heading down every 5-10 minutes, bang down to the field. And as Brenton says, there's so many eyes that they need. And Donegal maybe just don't have that. They're very, McGuinness seems to just be. It's a gym show, like, and I don't want to say that in a critical way, like, but you know what I mean. But he's so involved himself that he probably be finding it very hard to hand any power over to anybody else. It he just comes across as that type of person, but maybe not. But maybe he will now, as he says, go away and maybe bring 2 or 3 fellas in. But just the competitiveness of the championship, it's just been brilliant. And we're speaking about it. It just keeps giving. The championship just keeps giving. Westmeath was another one. Mark McHugh came in. Revitalised them. Win the Leinster title and really challenging no matter who they're playing. Galway, Connacht, everything has all lifted, and teams, as much as the old way, the old system and the old rules give us all something where, you know, we could defend, we could put 15 men behind the ball. We're playing a team far superior than us. But the new rules, yes, there's some teams can take a hammering, but there's some teams can come along, they can set up well, and all of a sudden they've a couple of players who can kick the 2 pointers. And that is just massive in this game. And you know, games where, you know, when you look at Donegal against Cork, again, you would have thought it was a game was going to be won. All of a sudden, bang, out of nowhere, Cork's back in it, and all good team. And it's just brilliant. I am absolutely, this last 2 years, 3 years ago, I didn't know where I was going. Watching GA, watching my own club, certain nights, saying to myself, where am I going? Now, I just can't wait every weekend. I just can't wait whether it be a club match, whether it be a county game. I just love it. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Well, Keir McGeady made an interesting point as well about what potentially is making it so competitive. He spoke about how in a bygone era, the likes of Dublin and Kerry were basically, they were the rich and they were getting richer. They were training 9 months of the year every year, where everybody else was just getting maybe one championship game and gone. Whereas now, just about every county team now gets to train from December to June, if not December to July, just about every team. So I suppose that kind of helps, the fact that they're all getting that level of training for a half a year. Every team's getting that now. So I think that's kind of adding into the competitiveness of it as well.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that where players are, you know, we've spoken about this for a long time. You know, they're amateur only by name only. You know, the county players, you know, and even now down to club level, the level of training that's being done, the coaches that are coming in and doing all the work for them, and you know, they're only going to get fitter, stronger, and their skill levels are always going to be better. Then you've that many people analysing it. You know, you're constantly doing all that work. And you know, watching where you can improve, and it's everything is about them we fine margins. Players like you name players in any county. I'd say that Clifford and maybe Con from Dublin. You know, these guys are a different level, and then all the rest of the counties, they've all got 2 and 3 top forwards, top defenders, and that's because of the coaching, because of the level of training they're at, the level of work that's being done. While before, as you say, there was only 2 or 3 counties able to get away with doing that, because of finances, because of whatever reasons. And they were there at the end of the year, at the business end of the year, and their mom maybe got their day out in Croke Park once every 8 or 9 years, and then went back, and yeah, that was them brushed aside and coming 10 years again. So you need to be doing that constant every year, going at it every year and realizing where you're at. And this is happening more and more now. And as you say, counties are getting 6-7 months of it, and they can only improve by that.
I think it's going a bit far though, Mark. I agree with the professionalism and all that, if you want to be professional, but I'm just hearing too many stories of lads being leaned on a wee bit, that basically your life's over in many ways in terms of commitment to the team. I think that's out of order. Like I've heard different stories with boys cancelling holidays and different. This isn't happening or not. I mean, a story there last week, one of the Cape Verde players, who is a Dundalk player, one of his best mates is an other Dundalk lad, and the manager let him go out to the World Cup there for a couple of days because he was allowed to bring 4 friends along with his family. And I just thought to myself, like, they're not a chance in hell that would hand. That's a guy on a professional contract. They're not a chance in hell a Gaelic manager in the season would allow you away for a few days like that, because there obviously was a bit of media around it as well. But I thought, what great managing from the Dundalk manager to allow that lad out there. That was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I've just heard different anecdotal stories. Now, I'll tell you one now. In February, in the week in between, the free week in February there, I met 2 Donegal players at a birthday party. And we had a mutual friend in it. And there they were standing with their Maywatis. And I said, lads, you not have a couple of beers here? Freaking party, 2 or 3 beers, relax. No, we'd be raced. And I was thinking to myself, like, what the fuck are we doing, these boys? Do you know what I mean? This is our Gaelic games, our culture. I didn't want them to be drunk. I didn't want them falling about. I didn't want them drinking freaking vodka, Red Bull like we used to. There's a big difference having a couple of beers. And, you see freaking like rugby players doing it on the Sunday night and then playing Six Nations the following week. They're in the Shelburne Hotel and a few beers. We now have pushed our players to a level of they're basically hermits. Nobody sees them anywhere. Now, I know that that's still their choice, and people say, well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I get that. But you see, everybody wants to play at that high level. It doesn't mean that you should have that type of a control over somebody. Say, you can't go there, you can't do there, this is it, this is that. So that worries me a small bit when I see fellas like that being pushed maybe over the limit a wee bit. And I agree with Mark, obviously it's only amateur name, But I still think we probably need a wee bit of cop on with our managers in terms of what we're asking some of our young players. I just see a lot of stories there where, to me, I'm like, right, you don't have the right to do that. And I tell you anecdotally again, because I'm not naming the players, there's a couple of guys in the last few years I heard what about you were told you're not, there was holidays or different things arranged, and then you're not going. And then there's one senior player who was told you're not going. He says, I am going. He called the bluff and he went, and that was the end of it. So I'll tell you off mic who it was, but no, but I'm just saying that, you know, I think some of that's unfair. I could never do that. Like I coached my club team a couple of seasons ago. We won the championship, the senior championship, Donegal. Listen, my whole thing was, listen, from my time, you know, it was probably a bit crazy, but I certainly was always saying, lads, here, we got to socialise a wee bit here. And I don't want, nobody's getting drunk, nobody's going past 2 beers probably, but just every now and then a couple of games, and even in the middle of the championship, you know, we had a big victory in the quarter-final. We were playing the following week. I said, boys, in the hotel here, we're having a couple of beers, because the team we beat, they'd beaten us the last couple of seasons. And I said, boys, what the fuck is the point if we can't sit down and have a couple of beers? And we won the quarterfinal and we won the semi, of course, and won it. We only had 2 beers, but I know the vast majority of senior club boys just wouldn't. That's not possible. That's not possible. And I was saying to myself, aye, it is, and it's fine. And it's not about beer, because maybe it's all beer. It's about the wee bit of camaraderie and the bit of fun. And everybody knows, just getting back into that thing of being teammates and being together. We've now squashed in a lot of our seasons, and we're asking, to me, more and more of our players that I think we're kind of maybe crushing in their life a wee bit much.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. And I think in our man, Gary would know this. Like, a fella always told me when we talked about, sure, you were out drinking all the time. You know, fella's a bit older than me. He says, I was. He says, but the fella that I would have went out and marked, he was in the same state as me the next day, because I was probably with him in the bar the night before. But you know, so that was all good, and we all continued that trend in the late 90s, and then sort of hit that noughties, and the Armagh team came along, and all of a sudden it was just no drink. And then all of a sudden that moves on to club, and players and clubs are thinking, I have to do this. What do you mean you're out drinking on Thursday night there, and we have a match on Sunday? You know, all that stuff was just, it is great. I need to watch what I say here. We've just been involved with my own senior day. But that's that. And then what happens at inter-county level, it just comes down right through it all, right to junior football, you know, and not the junior championship or senior championship, you know, whatever you win, you win. But there's a certain bit of it where players need to let their hair down. You know, like after a match, there should be no problem with going and having a couple of pints. And anyone that criticizes a fella for doing that, to me, is wrong. You know, that is wrong. But there's also a side of it is you also need to be careful where you go with it, because as you know, Brenton, there'll be certain players and certain groups that once you give them that wee bit of rope, you know what I mean? Do
you want to name who's the troublemakers at your club? Do you know what, Mark? Listen, I agree. I think that would have been the way before, and definitely be us. If you left the door open, we freaking get charged and fell on top of each other. I think it's very different now, and see, it makes me uncomfortable to even talk about beer as in beer, because it's really more the team getting together a wee bit, because them couple of beers just relax things a wee bit, have a wee chat about the game, wee bit of Mickey taking, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, lads is getting into their car or you know, and they're away home. They don't see each other. And it's more that we've demonized the couple of beers. We've demonized beer in total, when really a couple of beers for any athlete is fine. You're fit, you should go for a jog the next day. You know, it's not a problem to have a couple of beers. It's more that we've demonized the thing of beers. You're going to be falling about drunk and it's going to, you know, set you back freaking weeks. And it's not. It's more about that wee bit of camaraderie that certain, I think, managers that are a wee bit like teachery nearly, like, you know, this is it. No, we just want to win, boys. That's the only thing we're doing. Yeah. And because the boys really love the game and want to do it, they'll still do it, right? Because people say, well, sure, it's up to them if they want to play or not. But it's not fair in them, because they have to toe the line. All I mean is that I just see there, you know, when you get after a match to meet up and have a bit of crack, I think that's such a part of it that we're asking too much of it.
The players actually feel that they can't even be seen in a social in a bar. They feel, you know, not this. You just hear this sort of going about, you know, they nearly feel like, God, you know, and there's people do it. There's people who wouldn't maybe been involved that much in football themselves going, hey, senior man, he's in the bar the other night. You know, he might be sitting drinking Coke, or he might have been whatever. But when then that gets around, he's drinking like mad. So he is. You know,
Jim will be getting me in as entertainment officer next year after this interview here. Come here,
Gents, I could listen to this all night. I really could, but we'll start to wrap up here. I'll tell you what, for a bit of crack, there's 4 matches this weekend, the quarterfinals. Just give me your shout and who you think's going to win. So Monaghan versus Louth, that's a tight one there.
I'm gonna go for Louth.
I think the big thing is the Began injury. The Monaghan crew are saying it's a dead leg, and I'm here since it could be a hammer. So we'll know. We'll probably not even know we'll not even know the warm up. If Began's playing, I'm going to go for Monaghan. If he's not, I think that's a big enough thing to swing it with.
What I'm hearing from
you're closer than me, are you?
It's a dead leg.
Is it a dead leg?
That's
right. Listen. I'm hoping it is. Lavelle's a cousin of mine, so I gotta stick with the Monaghan.
Yeah. Cork and Mayo, then, gents.
Jesus, is a hard one to call. What do you think? I can't tell you what. I mean, obviously, Big O'Callaghan's back from the suspension. You know, they 40 grand Sports Direct gave them to fly up to Derry to come across a bit of goal. They needed to win that match after 40k was through. But yeah, listen, you got to say, freaking Tommy Walsh's 2-pointer probably scored the championship for me the last day. Jeez, I know, sorry, you didn't see the TV. He won a dirty ball.
Saw that score, yeah.
Did you see the score? Oh, yeah, in the highlights, sorry, yeah. That was a crazy score. And listen, Sherlock, I mean, he had 2 pointers across the last 2 games. That'll always give them a chance. I just Mayo at Croke Park now. Do you see them? Do you see the scenes in Castlebar the last day? I think they've got now the Conroy's back. They've got the 4. You know, if you look at it inside, Byrne and obviously Kobe and Ryan O'Donoghue. Now you have Conroy. To stop 4 good forwards gives them a serious advantage. The midfield's a wee bit weak versus Cork, but I think them 4 versus the inside of Cork, I think Mayo have a slight advantage on them.
Realistically, none of us have a clue who's going to win that, because Cork could win that by 10 points, Mayo could win it by 10 points, it could be a draw, because these 2 teams are just so erratic. It is unreal. So just probably that soft sort of spot for Mayo. I'll go with Mayo.
Okay, Kerry and Tyrone then.
You want to go ahead there, Mark? Well, listen, if Tyrone stay with him for a while, I mean, McCurry, Darragh Canavan's fitness here is absolutely key. Obviously, he did say he came on 63 minutes the last day. He is their best player. He's their talisman. Even if he starts, can he play a full game? Do you start McCurry? Is Jordan? Is Ethan Jordan up there? Is Matty Donnelly? The legs. I mean, he's been doing brilliant in there as a target man. You know, Michael Home, we've seen sprinklings of it. You're asking it's such a stretch to make a case if Kerry play their best, particularly with the 4 there, with the 2 O'Connors and Mark O'Shea and Sean O'Brien. It just gives them such a power platform, and then just give it to Clifford every chance you can get.
Physically, Kerry they're just men. They're just men. And now, don't get me wrong, we all know the one team, the one county, who if they get their gander up, they will give Kerry all they want, and they'll get in under their skin and they'll try all that. But I think this Kerry team's above that. I think, running around the middle, they're just going to be too big and strong. And this Tyrone are a couple of years still away from they're improving, and you can see Mulligan works really working on them, and they're getting better and better. But I think what they're saying there, Brandon's 100% right. Matty Donnelly's been brilliant. We thought he was gone. He's been absolutely brilliant. Come to Croke Park, you know what I mean? Colin Fitzpatrick, how much work is he going to have to get through? And Kennedy, how much work are they going to have to get through to try and sort of come out even 50-50 against this Kerry team? And then say no more about Clifford. Who's going to mark Clifford? Like McKiernan, none of, I don't know. Like, I can't see anyone.
I'd say Tig will probably pick him up. Yeah. But yeah, listen, it's near impossible to stop him. It's just a matter of how much he's going to score, isn't it?
And then last but not least, then Galway and Dublin. I'd have said, if you'd asked me this a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said absolutely no way. It'll be Dublin, but I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, they look like they're putting a push at the right time. I think as well, you look at the Comer, Walsh, you look at Tierney, and and of course, young Thompson's back from America as well. Listen, I think they've got to Con O'Callaghan is the injury doubt. He obviously went off holding the hammer in at a time which he shouldn't have been in. Let's be honest, Dublin should have won that. And there's not a serious payoff for what happened, which was such a freak free to pull forward for Murphy. And then if you're missing Con, I think it's advantage Galway anyway. Definitely. I'd see Shane McGrath coming back in the team there. I don't know if your man McDonough's certainly updated midfield, but Ternan's a great man for man marker. I think he'll probably pick up Pascal, and I think the Dublin defence will have some trouble holding that Galway forward line, and particularly with Comer to come on. I mean, geez, he's an absolute animal. You see him coming back winning kickouts. Like his half-hour burst there, he just guarantees to cause absolute mayhem. So I think we maybe got a false read in Dublin last week, Gary, because Donegal were out on their feet completely. But listen, McGarry and your man Guyton, come on, they look really good players as well. So yeah, I think they'll certainly make a better shape of what I thought a few weeks ago. But I still think Galway are maybe the only team who could put it up to Kerry at Croker.
I have to agree. I think one of the only teams that might give Kerry a real run. I think Dublin, and they'll be buoyed by that there. The supporters will be back out in force, I would say, this weekend as well. And, that'll give them an awful lift as well. But this Galway is coming a wee bit fresher. I think also Comer's coming back at a nice time. He got a good game time the last day. Shane Welch starting to hit form again. And just all over the field, Kelly there as well, who had been a wee bit erratic as well at the start of the year. He's starting to hit form as well. I can't see past Galway. But again, Galway's let people down in the past. And then, of course, unfortunately, the sad news of Clancy this week, that might give Galway a lift as well. So, that would be a great, lift for the whole county of Galway to go there and get that victory,
Well, I'll go for, just to close it out, I'll go for Monaghan, Kerry, Cork and Galway. That'll be my 4 picks then. But listen, gents, an absolute pleasure to have you both on again. 2 friends of the show now at this stage, and hopefully we'll talk again.
No problem. Thank you, Gary.
Well, indeed, lads. Good talking.